Hello everyone, hi, how are you guys doing today? Welcome back to another episode reaction to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This is Haarute, no matter how. What's up? So, more Buffy today. Last time on Buffy, we had a Spike episode, and it was pretty good because we've seen some very interesting developments about Spike as a person. That was kind of great, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I really enjoyed that episode. I had a lot to say about it. Spike is now Buffy's main love interest. Maybe not necessarily from her perspective yet, but from like a writing perspective, it kind of feels like that's kind of the direction we're heading into. Because if I know something about Buffy Summers, is that the moment that she has a rocky relationship with a boy, she's gonna go to a different boy. And I think we're seeing the end of the relationship with Riley at this point, and I've been saying that for a while. And now it seems like Spike is probably gonna be next. That's how I feel. We'll see how she gets there, if she does, because maybe I'm wrong there. That could happen. But Spike seems to be heavily in love with Buffy, and okay, whatever. I talked a lot about Spike and him being a vampire, being a demon, not having a soul, but then also at the same time just how he feels and how it's like it is kind of a carryover from how he was like as a human. Like there's an obsession that still carries. He's still kind of like a hopeless, like loving idiot. So it's like a lot of that just kind of intermingles. So I already talked about that. Go watch previous video. This time on Buffy, something that happened last time that happened outside of the Spike situation is that at the end of the episode we got to hear from Joyce that she does have something. Like there is something that's going on with her that is a more worrying medical situation. And so she was gonna go to the hospital to see if they could see what it was, because they didn't find anything before, but they were like, oh yeah, but there is something. So maybe it's better for you to come and stay in observation. So she's going to the hospital to do that. And Buffy got those news, and then Spike arrived with a shotgun. And then he was like, oh, never mind, she's crying. And then he like consoled her a little bit. We didn't get to hear anything from Buffy at that moment, but she didn't push him away. She probably just didn't have the energy to do so, but it was nice. But the Joyce thing is now more serious, and I'm remembering when we had the Dawn episode where we found out who Dawn was, and we got to hear at the very end of the episode Dawn was like worried about Joyce. It was like, what's happening with Mom? And Buffy was like, I don't know. And in that moment I was like, okay, this is serious, because like, you know, sometimes you just kind of have a headache, sometimes it's just not that big of a deal. But the moment that they pointed that out to me, I was like, okay, this is gonna be more serious, I think. However, now that I said that, I was thinking off camera of something that could happen, and actually I see this as more of a likelihood. Because something that Joyce did say, and maybe she just said this because she just didn't want to worry Buffy, which is something she does a lot, but something she did say was, well, you know, even if it is something, it is early enough that they could probably do something about it, so, you know, like, it's better to be safe than sorry. So the situation doesn't seem to be horrible yet. Maybe she's lying, maybe she just doesn't want to worry Buffy. And also, you just never know. You just never know what might happen. But what I'm thinking is that, like, she's going outside of her house where it's not safe. Because something that I have to keep reminding myself a lot is that, like, you know, we could all just die. We live inside a house full of demons and vampires and shit. And, well, when we're at the house, usually we don't get, like, raided in our sleep because vampires cannot get in. If Joyce goes to a hospital, then a vampire could just kill her, or whatever the main bad is. Whatever that woman in red is, the beast or whatever. Like, I don't know what she is. She maybe is a vampire, maybe she isn't. I don't think that she is, but she could send a vampire to kill her, or whatever. Something could happen where she would die because she's not in the protection of being at her home with Buffy. So that could be a tragedy that's happening that might happen independently from the medical situation. But the medical situation is a way in which she ends up being in a hospital overnight. That could happen. And another thing it could still happen is that we have like a weird like epidemic going on. We haven't seen much of it, but we've seen enough of it for us to clue in on that. where every time we've been to the hospital, and we've seen a couple of scenes independent from any main characters, where there is like a doctor that I thought was one of the guys from Supernatural, and he was like, oh yeah, this is weird, like a lot of people are freaking out, and we get to see how there's like, they said it's like, oh, this is like the fourth person this month. So it's like they have something that's going on that is turning people kind of crazy, and they don't know what it is, and it is unique enough for them to isolate it from other like situations, other conditions, but they have no fucking clue what it is. And that seems like some kind of like demonic induced madness, supernatural induced madness. So that seems to be something that might be going on, and that might be what's happening with Joyce. Who knows? Now that I'm thinking about it, God, if I sniper shot this, I'm gonna feel really good. Is maybe Dawn is something that people, I mean, this wouldn't really make much sense. I mean, I don't see a reason why it wouldn't. Maybe Dawn is something that if you spend enough time near her, you're gonna start to feel some kind of symptoms that would affect your like psyche, your brain somehow. Because Dawn is not just like, Dawn is not human, but she's like a supernatural version of a human. So maybe that could happen. Just being a prolonged exposure to Dawn makes that happen. Because it's like, well, if Joyce is a victim of that, then why is Joyce special over like literally anyone else in the population? And I'm thinking like, well, because she lives in the same house as Buffy and Dawn, so she's one of the people that spends the most amount of time with Dawn, so maybe that's why. And then it's like, well, what about the other 4 people? And it's like, well, I don't know, it could be like Dawn's teacher. Like maybe one of those people was Dawn's school teacher, because Dawn has a life that she is a part of now. She has a routine. She participates in society, so maybe that is, like people that hung up with Dawn during like the daytime, And one of the people that got put into the hospital was the dude that Buffy found in like the parking lot, and he was like the night guard, and he grabbed the orb or whatever. What was the orb? It was something that was supposed to protect, right? Protect from what? God, I have to rewatch that episode. I don't fucking remember. Sorry, it's been a couple weeks. Does that matter in any way? The fact that he held the orb, like maybe I should be able to put this together now. The orb combined with the exposure to Dawn. I'm cooking too much. I might just cut all of this from the video. I usually do the overthinking at the end of the video. This time I was just kind of, I don't know, feeling spicy. Whatever, let's just go watch the episode. Alright, Patreon. Check out the Patreon link in the description below. Pop up on the screen. You can support the channel and watch the next couple of episode reactions to Buffy, as well as Angel watch-alongs. I just watched an Angel episode where we got to see a bunch of like tie-ins to the flashbacks from previous episode, where Spike was having a great time, but then on the other end, like Angel and Darla were having their divorce going on, so that was kind of fun. So yeah, that happened. But yeah, anyway, let's go watch the episode. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Season 5, Episode 8. Let's go. That was a girthy recap. I feel like this episode might matter a lot. A generic cola.
Where do they get the cat scan from? Or does the machine sort of look like a cat? Donna, I'm really...
Entertain her. She needs it. She's coping. I just look up what a cat was. That's why I was looking at my phone.
In a
Did Tara dye her hair?
sort of way, but I think it's great.
Captain America bloated up real good. All by his lone wolf lonesome.
Rather reckless of him.
I'd say very, rather.
Now, I, for one, didn't want to start my day with a slaughter, which really just goes to show how much I've grown.
This has been fruitful, trying to look up something you never saw and don't know the name of.
Well, we know that
No
Giles
doubt
read that it
looking
was
around
like,
some sewer-
God, what was it? That witch must not be named.
Magnificent one.
Oh.
This dark spell I hold in my worthless and scabby hand and face to...
Does this pump make my ankle look bony? Drag, is it?
Yes, Dreg.
Look, just so we're clear, the spell's gonna work, right?
Okay, what is this spell?
I mean, nothing worse than a gift that doesn't work. Then I'd have to get all mad and kill you.
Why is everyone bow to her? Who is she? Oh, going for the shop.
I'll have it all.
That's concerning. Oh my god, dude, what the fuck?
What are you doing in here?
What, me? I was, what are you doing here?
Oh my god.
Were you just smelling her sweater?
No. Well, yeah, all right, I did. It's a predator thing, nothing wrong with it. Know your enemy's scent, whet the appetite for a hunt.
the stuff. Slayer musk is bitter and aggravated.
Oh my god. Oh my god!
I know for a bleeding fact the Slayer wouldn't mind me being here. Your girl in the habit of buying her enemies drinks. Because she spent the better part of last night with me, doing just that.
That's good. Yeah, tell me another.
Twice in recent memory, she's had the lover wickers do a de-invite on the house. Keep out specific vamps. Ever ask yourself why she's never taken my name off the guest list?
Because you're harmless.
We had a fight with him like 5 episodes ago.
Face it, white bread. Buffy's got a type, and you're not it.
Oh my god.
It's dangerous, rough, occasionally bumpy in the forehead region. Not that she doesn't like you, but sorry, Charlie, you're just not dark enough.
Hey! Am I dark enough for you now?
Bloody pull it again, you son! I'm starting to sizzle!
You don't know anything about Buffy. You never did. I'm the one that knows what she needs.
Oh, yeah? That's why you're with her at hospital right now, giving her what she needs.
You tell me.
Mama's sickly. Buffy took her to hospital for a bit of prod and probe. Bite-sized one went too. You know, it's funny her not calling you about that. I've known since last night.
Oh my god. Spike is just like, yeah, I'm better for her, dude. Fuck you. I'm a better boyfriend than you will ever be. Like, dude, it's so childish. Oh my god.
I heard. I thought maybe you'd need...
I do. I didn't. I mean, until we knew what it was.
I understand. How's she doing?
Do we know anything?
Well, she just had a CAT scan. I was about to go in and find out. Will you sit with Dawn while I talk to Mom? She's in the waiting room.
Yeah, you got it.
So not going Buffy, going with Dawn. It's a kind of babysitting duty again.
Excuse me, I'm just gonna check on the status of the OR.
What is that?
The OR?
Lucky there's one available on such short notice. Some people wait for days, sometimes weeks.
Mom, what did they find?
A shadow. I've got a shadow. They have to do a biopsy to find out exactly what it is. The doctor says it's too early to be concerned.
Right?
Just a shadow.
They're both just coping.
What if she's not a demon, or sorceress, or spirit, or whatever these books cover? What if she's something else altogether?
Something new, you mean?
Something old.
Older than recorded history?
The Dagon sphere. You said that was created to repel.
That which must not be named. Cannot be named.
Predates language itself?
The original evil? Whatever that might be.
And we're blind.
But like, those monks knew, so it doesn't necessarily predate.
Oh. I beg
They
your
don't.
I want these.
They don't know who she is. The only person that knows is Buffy.
No problemo.
Thank you.
What did she buy?
She could be anywhere. What if she's as...
What did she buy? Was she just scouting, or did she actually buy something important? Okay. A lot of things are happening, and it all seems very concerning. Oh boy.
Do we have the results yet?
Let's sit down over here for a minute.
No. Excuse me. No, I don't mean to be rude. It's just I've been sitting for hours. I don't want to sit. I just... Tell me, please.
Your mother has the term is low-grade glioma. It's a brain tumor.
Okay.
In your mother's case, the tumor seems to have started. In other words, it hasn't spread.
Doesn't matter. Okay.
Unfortunately, things may progress very quickly.
Things. What things?
Symptoms: loss of vision or appetite, lack of muscle control, mood swings.
But what can we do?
Not much, until we determine if the tumor is operable.
Something that I mean, can I help?
Well, there's some literature you might want to look at. If we aren't able to go in surgically, there are a number of new treatments that are very promising. Prognosis is a lot better today than it would have been only a year ago. Even if the tumor's not operable, she has a real chance. Nearly 1 out of 3 patients with this condition does just fine. Now let me ask, does your mother's insurance company require copies of the MRI and pathology reports?
I'm not sure.
Chemical plants? Waste disposal facilities?
I don't know. Maybe. I'm sorry.
Told me you needed an ICU.
Oh, it's this guy.
Excuse me, Miss.
I still don't know if I can trust this guy or not. We've just seen him a lot.
guy's great, but he doesn't have that bone in his head that tells him when to back off. He really is a good doctor. Your mom's in good hands.
Thank you. He was just telling me that there's nothing I can do.
That's what's interesting about
And I'm gonna
this.
tell you the same thing. Give yourself a break.
A break?
Well, I just mean go out, get some air. Come back later on this evening and talk to the doc then if you want. My unsolicited advice of the day.
Because it's like, what are you gonna do? Just sit here hating life? But like, at the same time, there's no easy way to process this.
I have to do something.
Do something?
Yeah, like, magic.
That's what she's thinking.
But people get sick. I don't think magic can help.
That attitude's not helping.
Okay. To be fair, in a world where magic is real, sure, you can research to see if maybe you can find a spell.
Do me a favor and drop Dawn off at school and tell her I'll meet her at the magic shop when she gets home.
Of course, whatever you need me to do. What do you want me to tell Donna about your mom?
Oh, that's a good question.
Tell her we don't know anything yet.
Okay.
Hey! Hey! Sold someone a Karl's amulet and a Sobikian bloodstone.
Oh God.
Are you
What is
stupid or
that?
something?
Allow me to answer that question with a firing.
We talked about the employee-employer vocabulary no-nos.
But what do those items do?
You never sell these things together, ever. Bad news.
Ancient Egyptian cult, heavy into dark magic.
And the Cole's amulet, wasn't that a transmogrification conduit?
Damn straight.
Be that as it may, I still see no reason for concern. I mean, the Sabikian transmogrification spells were lost thousands of years ago, and the young woman to whom I sold them would have to have enormous power.
Young woman?
Mm-hmm.
What?
I had my 10th birthday party here. We just moved to Sunnydale and Mom rented the carousel for an entire hour for just me and my friends. It was just me and Mom and Buffy riding it by ourselves for the whole hour. Just when Mom felt like we'd gotten our money's worth. She's not gonna get better, is she?
Absolutely, she will.
That's a lie.
These Summers women are tough.
I'm really glad you're here.
Thanks.
Buffy's glad too. She sure cries a lot less with you than she did with Angel. Everything with him was all you know? Every day was like the end of the world. She doesn't get all worked up like that over you.
Like, she doesn't realize what she just said. Spells doom for Riley.
Sorry, the human mind is very delicate.
This makes
Too
sense.
much could go wrong.
Yeah, I've heard stories about people trying healing spells. If we did something, it could make things a lot worse, Buffy.
We've done just about enough making things worse for one day, haven't we?
Here we go.
Why? What do you mean? What happened?
Nothing to concern you.
Giles.
There's just so much happening at once.
How did she get away with this bad mojo stuff? Giles sold it to her.
Well, no one knew who she was.
If it's any consolation, I may have overcharged her.
Reptile demon. Sobakites were reptile worshippers.
Just once I would like to run into a cult of bunny worshippers.
We already beat up a lizard
Thank
demon.
you very much for those nightmares.
Sorry.
Got it. She did wear a bunny suit that one time in Halloween.
Buffy, this chick creamed you last time.
That's because I wasn't ready for her last time. I am now.
You are less ready than you've ever been in your life.
Well, I can't just sit here. I have to do something.
Yeah, she has to do something. She's just going. That makes sense. She's just going. Like, there's so much happening that, like, oh my god, that cover looks like shit. I will be slightly disappointed if it's just like a generic monster.
That it may be reborn. That it may serve. Dark incantations, always overwritten. Why can't they just cut to the fight? When I wasn't even looking. Help.
Doesn't do anything.
Now, this is no good. Work with me here.
God, she has no match. This is how I felt last time they fought as well. Anytime she landed hits, it felt like she was letting herself get hit.
Hayan, we know.
Arise.
So,
Arise.
Rockish.
Arise.
What is this? Okay. Well, we had a CGI budget. How much CGI budget do we have?
The power is yours to see what is unseen, to find what is shrouded in shadow.
Oh, so you can track Dawn.
Find for me the key. Let your vision guide you to its hiding place and then return to me and tell me where it lies. Now would be good.
Okay. She did say return to me and tell me where it lies. So it has to return. So if we kill it before it comes back, then we're good.
Let Buffy go after her? Alone?
Let isn't really a factor when she sets her mind to something. You know that.
Crazy. And going off alone, half-cocked. Instead of waiting for a much-needed backup. Charging in with a big old hand grenade. This is different. Yeah, it is. Buffy needs something she can fight. Something she can solve.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of action you're looking for.
Do you? Hey, I'm not trying to get...
It's cool.
You're right.
You okay?
Just a little crazed.
I hear you.
I like that. I like that interaction a lot.
She needs me.
That was a very good amount of insight coming from Sander, like surprising. Jesus.
We'll keep her safe here until you arrive.
Thanks. And Giles, Dawn's kind of fragile right now. About Mom. She doesn't know how bad it is.
Anya or Sander are gonna spill the beans. This is a heavy episode. Oh, is he gonna say yes to this girl again? Like, that's the same one from last time, right, Daisy? That's the only reason why we saw that in the recap. Is inoperable. Yeah, he did say yes. What if he lets himself turn himself into a vampire just because he feels like that's the only way he has a shot with Buffy? Oh my god. Okay, never mind. So he's not as insane, but he's out there just feeling like he has to do something to feel like he's worth something. We do have a CGI budget, but it's not that great. That looked practical with like a little bit of CGI. We just had like a big rubber snake just moving it. We're gonna get raided by the snake thing.
Is she awake yet?
You're gonna have to tell her.
She's waiting for us. Can we take her home now? We'll see.
The biggie snake was nowhere to be.
Okay. Well, they know.
It knows.
Yeah, it knows. That was the whole point. It's very fast. We need a car. We need to stop it. This is a chase. This is where, like, Spike shows up in a car. Please tell me I'm right. Okay, it's Rouse. If it was Spike, I would have laughed my ass off, because that would have been so random to just insert him someplace into the plot. Well, fuck.
Just a matter of time.
Everything takes time. What about my time? Does anyone appreciate that I'm on a schedule here?
Are you? I guess we're going on foot here. Got the really stiff model moving like this. Okay, I will fight. Choke her to death. Can you? Double tap. Double tap. Stab it with something, just in case. Punch its eyeballs off, just so it doesn't know where to go. Why would you stop? Charles, run it over with the car. Oh, punch it. Okay, died. And we're still going. She needs to feel like she's doing something. It was right there. It was right there. Oh, she saw it.
I think I should talk to Dawn alone. Do I have bad hair? I don't look like a scary mom, do I?
No.
This is very depressing.
Okay, let's do this.
I'm waiting for like the symptoms to show up, because at that point it's even more depressing than it already is. If she just died, it would be sad, but the fact that you have to see her deteriorate is sadder.
Buffy? You okay?
Wearing a turtleneck so she doesn't see the bite.
Minimal damage of the fighting kind.
Why are you here?
Hey, just let it out. I'm right here.
This is us, to me.
I can't. Not now. They need me.
Okay.
If I start now, I won't be able to stop.
She's still going. Okay, I think that was Riley trying to feel useful to her in some way. Like he's a part of it, but he's not. And that's his pain right now. Which is like I get it. I get where he's coming from, but like at the same time, dude, this is not the time. But I guess, like, whenever it's a situation like that, like, he feels like he's not a part of Buffy's life. He feels like he's worthless to her. And he wants to feel like he's a part of her life. Him doing this and him just going out and killing demons and stuff, he wants to feel like he's a part of things. But he's being really selfish in a moment where there is, like, he can't be. It's actually really fucked up that he is this selfish. Because, like, okay, when he comes in and he says, like, it's okay, you can let it out, that's not him taking care of Buffy. That's him trying to reassure himself by using Buffy, which is really fucked up when you think about it that way. And this is a situation where, like you really need to worry about her. You really need to be thinking about her, not about yourself. And he's doing so in a way where he's not necessarily, like he's not intervening, he's not stopping her from anything, but he is really kind of focusing on himself first and what he can do to make himself feel better, and Buffy second, which is the problem. That's the actual problem, my guy. Okay, we had a pretty big episode today. I mean, ignoring the snake demon, whatever, but everything else about the episode did feel pretty important. And I feel like we're already seeing the end of whatever relationship we have here with Riley, where it seems like, yeah, this is kind of the end. And I already talked about it a little bit after I finished watching the episode. Sorry, it's been like an hour since I watched it because I went to make myself some food and then I ate the food, but now we're here. Riley is kind of coming here into this with like a kind of selfish angle. And I don't even, like, I don't think he wants to be selfish, but it's something that, like, he can control. Like, emotionally, he feels like he needs to be useful or he will be worthless, specifically to Buffy. And so he wants to prove that he can kill demons, that he can kill vampires, that he can still fight next to Buffy if she needs to. He wants to prove that he can look after Dawn and do all of the things that Buffy tells him to do. He wants to be a good guy, take care of people. And at the end, he comes in and it's like, it's okay, Buffy, you can let it out. You can cry on me. Like, it's okay, I'm here for you. But Buffy's response is, no, not right now. Because Buffy's kind of going in like I'm going mode. Like, I'm moving. I don't want to think about it. She's coping in a way that many people cope whenever something, a tragedy like this happens, which is, I don't want to stop and process what's happening, because the moment I do, I'm gonna break. So instead, I'm just gonna distract myself with whatever I can find. Doesn't matter what, it's gonna be anything, whatever. So the moment when Buffy goes back to the magic shop and they tell her, like, oh yeah, she came here and she took some items to, like, summon a demon or whatever, Buffy is immediately like, okay, let me know. What do I have to do? Okay, I have to find her. They were like, Buffy, don't. Like, right now it's not the right time for you to do this. And she's like, fuck you, tell me. I'm gonna go do it. I have to do something. Like, she has specifically said that. And I don't think you need me to point it out for you, but what that means is, earlier when Buffy is talking to the doctor and she's like, tell me what I can do. And they tell her, like, I mean, there's really not a lot. You can do some reading, but, like, kind of not up to you. And then immediately when she's talking to Riley, she's like, no, I'm gonna go find some magic, some spells or something. And, like, it's this thing where, like, Buffy, up to this point, there's very few, if any, things that Buffy hasn't managed to solve yet. Like, we're watching the show, and because the show is called Buffy the Vampire Slayer, she's the main character, and because most of the issues we find in the show are kind of just issues we can punch our way into solving, there's also a lot of, like, character drama and, like, coming with the territory or, like, kind of coming of age. But a lot of it can be solved by punching a representation of it, which is kind of fun about the show. But ultimately, it does feel, and this is something I mentioned before, that, like, every episode it kind of feels like, okay, we gotta fight something. To maybe sometimes the detriment of the show, I think, I would say this. Sometimes it feels like we're forcing a fight just to have a fight because the show has to have a fight. You know, like, we have to have Buffy punch something and kill it in order for the episode to finally come to a conclusion. However, then this creates this interesting story beat now where Buffy is in a situation where she wants to fix the problem and she's used to fixing problems, but right now there's nothing she can do to fix the problem because this is not a problem that could possibly be fixed with just fighting. You can't punch your way into somehow fixing this. And in fact, there's nothing you can do in order to fix it. It's just gonna happen. Like, Buffy approaches the Scoobies with the idea of like, let's do some magic, let's do some spell, and they tell her it's like, we probably shouldn't, because dealing with the kind of the organical, the natural and the supernatural, it's usually not leading to good results. Like, they tell her you should watch the second episode of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and you'll kind of get a vibe for what we're going for here. Like, it's you shouldn't mess with that, because it's complicated and it's usually gonna end in something worse. Because, like, if you think about it, it's like, well, how would you do a spell that would remove something that is inside of our brain? And, like, it's something that, like, specifically you should be able to know. And it's like, well, how would you, like, be able to isolate that specific thing from the rest of our body? You could, like, take a chunk out of our brain off. Like, it's... Unless it's, like, I don't know, time reversal magic. But then if you do time reversal magic, then I guess your mom just goes back to the way she used to be, like, couple years ago. I guess maybe you could, I guess that could maybe be a solution. This is not gonna happen. I'm just dreaming here. Like, maybe you could do, if you were to find some kind of time reversal magic, like localized time reversal, where you return an object backwards in time to a previous state, like some crazy diamond shit. Right there. Right there. If you could do that, like, maybe then you would be able to catch it before it becomes that big of an issue. Like, you could do some treatment about it, but then you would have to revert your mom to a point previous in the time. Like, I don't know. This isn't happening. What's actually happening is that I think Joyce is gonna die. And I've said this before. I had this feeling when originally this story beat started being addressed in the Dawn episode. I was like, I feel like Joyce is probably gonna die, which is very sad, because I do like Joyce, and I think that Joyce as a character is a very fun character, but I'm looking at, like, the way the show's gonna go, and it feels like Joyce is not long for this world, and that sucks. And this is gonna be a very rocky point in Buffy's journey, Buffy's development. You know, in a show where this is kind of a coming of age show. So Buffy having to deal with the death of her mother would be, I mean, that's just an incredibly, like, sad and fucked up thing to deal with. Just in general, the fact that she has to deal with that so young. She doesn't have her father anymore. She only has Dawn, who she knows now that is not a real person. Or she is, but she wasn't always. So, like, your sister isn't even your real sister. So she is kind of left alone, but she still has to take care of Dawn somehow. And I'm sure that what would happen is that, God, a lot of, like, I'm already looking forward into the future, and I'm like, they're gonna talk to her dad, and the dad is gonna be like, come live with us in Spain or whatever, you know, like with me and my mistress or something. And Buffy's gonna say no, because she has to stay in Sunnydale. It's a hellmouth. And I have all my warriors here. So she's gonna stay in Sunnydale. But at the same time, Dawn can't go, because Dawn is the key, and she cannot leave the key alone. She has to protect it. So then that's a conflict waiting to happen. I don't know how long Joyce has. Like, that's the other thing. That's the fucked up part that they mention. Is that they mentioned what it was, and they said, okay, you're gonna start seeing the symptoms. And it's just very depressing to imagine. It's like memory loss of body control, a lot of... You're gonna see her slowly deteriorate, which is the most depressing thing. Because if she were to just die in her sleep overnight, that would be something. It would suck, but it would just suck because she died. The fact that you have to see her go away in, like, the worst way possible, as her brain just rots and her body stops functioning, that's just the saddest possible thing. And I, like, okay, this is interesting, because I feel like a lot of things that Buffy deals with throughout the show are things that, like, I am older than Buffy. I am approaching my 30s. Buffy is I don't know how old she is, but she's like 20. A lot of situations that Buffy finds herself in terms of, like, her development as a person, is situations that I can relate to, or situations that I have dealt with, as it is with a lot of coming of age shows. A lot of them are somewhat alien to me, because she's a young girl living in the United States of America, And a lot of the things about what I just said do not apply to me. But I still feel like there is a level that I can grasp with the character where I can understand some of the struggles she's going through. The loss of her single mother at age like 20 is something that is beyond me. And I imagine beyond a lot of people who watch these videos. Maybe not everybody, because I do know that I do have an older audience. Not everybody in the audience is old, but I do have some people that are older. And I would have to imagine that a number of them have had the loss of a parental figure, maybe even a single parental figure, or even both. And, you know, a family situation with the way you get along with your folks is different. It varies from one to the other. I feel like I personally would have different feelings between one and the other if they were to go away. And I do kind of think that weirdly applies to Buffy as well. So I'm applying the one that I would care about to Buffy. And I'm sitting here like, I don't know how bad that would be for me, but it would be pretty bad. Because that would change my entire world somewhat. A lot, actually. Like, I'm thinking about it. And this is a very grim series of thoughts to go into. But I'm thinking about it. If I were to lose my mom, that would be very bad, to put it lightly. And Buffy has to go through that at a very young age. And that's what I'm thinking about now. And that is something where I couldn't possibly understand what she's going through right now. I mean, I do get it. I do understand it on, like, just in text, I understand it. But I don't get the feeling of that. It's not something I could possibly relate to. So I'm just sitting here just very sad. I am not connecting with Buffy, and I would imagine that if at any point in my life later, after my situation with my family changes, and I watch this episode again, I would have to imagine that it would be a completely different viewing experience. I would just feel like dog shit just watching it. I really would. More than I already did. Sorry, like, the point that I was making before I went on a personal tangent a little bit was the fact that a lot of things that I see Buffy have to deal with that isn't supernatural, it feels like things that I get personally, just because I also was a young person that had to live through life. And Buffy is just kind of a young person that is going through life. That is kind of the thesis of the show. But now Buffy is now being faced with probably the roughest thing you would have to go through. And she's so young still. So this sucks. I don't know what I would do. I just feel sad for her. That's where I'm at. So yeah, this is interesting. A problem Buffy has to deal with where I just can't personally relate to it. I'm sure some people do, but I can't yet. I just feel really sad and I don't know what to say for her. So we're just gonna move on. Feel really sad whenever inevitably it happens. I don't know if, well, they didn't say, but I don't know if they implied that it was something that couldn't be operated. They did say, you know, we're gonna look into it and we'll see if there's something we can do a procedure on. And if we can, then okay, we'll do something. But if we can't, then that's kind of it. There wasn't a moment in the episode where they said, like, you know, like she's cooked, like she's done. But there was that scene where it was just like a sad transition scene where you get to see Buffy and Joyce just laying on the bed, holding each other while the doctor is telling them something, and they're like reacting to it. And I don't know if that was the doctor telling them like, yeah, we can't do anything about it. I don't know if that is something that happened. I'm just filling in the blanks, but that was like a transitional scene where I didn't get to hear the dialogue. So I don't know if that was implied or if it hasn't been confirmed yet. Because the doctor earlier in the episode said, you know, like, it's a lot different from what it was like even a year ago. You know, maybe almost 1 person out of 3 makes it nowadays. And Buffy was mortified to hear that because, like, the doctor is saying it with such a, like, thing of, like, you know, it's not as bad as it used to be. You know, she could still maybe survive. She has, like, a 20% chance. A little bit higher than that, maybe. Like, I don't know, 29%. Almost a third. And Buffy's hearing that, like, okay, so my mom is dead, like, 72%. And even if they do manage to save her, I don't know what the condition's gonna be. So that also sucks. So yeah, I don't know what Joyce's condition is. Well, we do know what the condition is, but I don't know what is gonna be her ending. I don't know if they're gonna solve it or not, but I have the sinking feeling of like, I think she's done, and we're just gonna see her go away sadly, and it's gonna fucking suck. That's where I'm at. But okay, this episode was just a lot of Buffy just going, trying to distract herself, trying to process the information, dealing with the fact that this is a problem she cannot fix, she cannot punch it, and suddenly everything's fine. Her mom is just gonna die, and she's gonna have to deal with it, and she has to also take care of Dawn. And like, in the situation that Buffy's in, Dad is just completely gone. Mom is about to die. You are the eldest daughter, and you have to take care of your, like, I don't know how old she is. She's like 14. Pseudo sister that is also not real. Like, what is Buffy gonna do? Like, she's gonna have like the support of all of her friends and like Giles and stuff, but like, what is she gonna do? Like, I just don't know. I would feel so lost, and I'm sure she's gonna feel so incredibly lost too. Like, I can't imagine what that would be like. So yeah, the future of the show is looking very... Remember when I saw the tower? Remember when I saw the tower car the tower? And like a couple episodes ago, Tara was holding it. She was holding it in such a manner so like we as the viewer could see that it was the tower. And like, I remember I read a Patreon comment that said like, oh, I never noticed that. And I never noticed anyone who pointed that out. And I was like, well, no one else is a freak like me who just really likes the Major Arcana tarot cards exclusively because they think they're a cool mechanic in JoJo. And I was a little bit in Persona, which took it from JoJo, because Persona is just a ripoff of JoJo, just entirely. But yeah, I like the Major Arcana, and I like that cards can represent a specific aspect of a journey, but the tower is the worst possible one. It represents calamity, endings of journeys, absolute destruction. Like, it is essentially the storm that takes everything away before a rebirth may happen and you may move on. Because the Major Arcana in Tarot represents a story, a beginning with the Fool and ending with the world, which is the Fool is someone who is completely unaware of anything that's happening in the world, and as they go through the journey, they learn new things, and the world represents complete and full understanding of everything. The tower is the point in the story where everything goes to fucking shit, and that is the point from which we move on from then on. So when Tara was holding that tower, well, I was worried for Tara, personally. But now I'm worried for, I think just the show in general. Because it feels like to me that Joyce dying could have an amount of repercussions that would be so crazy and fucked. That's how I feel. And if we're supposed to grab the show as just a representation of like Buffy's journey, because the show is called Buffy the Vampire Slayer, yeah, I feel like maybe we're approaching the tower, and that feels bad. It feels very concerning. So yeah, as we move forward into the show, I'm kind of sitting here at the edge of my seat, and I'm not excited to watch what's gonna happen because I kind of don't want to see it, but I'm gonna have to. So it's gonna be sad, I think. So yeah, we'll just keep going. The tone of the show, it feels like it has significantly changed with this episode. Previous episode a little bit, but previous episode was just Spike. But the way that it ended, I really had this feeling, even though Spike was the main focus, I really had this feeling of like, it's starting to get really real. Even like the Dawn episode, it felt that way a little bit. But this episode was just really depressing. And yeah, there is a main antagonist who, like, I don't know who the fuck she is, but she is way more powerful than Buffy. Buffy couldn't do anything against her. Like, Buffy punched her a little bit, and whenever she punched her, she kept yapping. She kept talking. She kept, like, taunting or making jokes or whatever, and Buffy couldn't do anything about it. And, like, that's kind of the thing, is that earlier in the previous fight as well, whenever Buffy was punching her, she kept talking as she was being hit, which I interpreted as she just doesn't care if she gets hit because it doesn't matter. So Buffy being like, oh, I can land some hits, it's like it doesn't actually do anything. This is someone we can't fuck with at the moment. We had a clue as to who she was, someone that is older than the written word. And like, on some level, it's like, well, some monks knew about her, so they could have told us something. So that means that people did know about this thing. So that means that there could have been writings about it. However, they refer to it as that which cannot be named. So I'm wondering if something about its name is is important. Like something like a Voldemort situation. Okay, we talk about Riley, we talk about Buffy and Joyce. Let's talk about Spike a little bit, just because we kind of have to. You know, Spike just kind of inserts himself into everything regarding the show at this point in life. But yeah, we had a scene with Spike where he was hanging out at Buffy's house and he was smelling her clothes. And I think he took clothes on the way out. I think he took a couple panties or something. All right, dude. But like, okay, like, it's not out of character. I will say that. But whenever it happened, I was like, come the fuck on, guy. Like, relax. Chill out for like a second. Oh my god. I guess he's a demon, an obsessed demon, and he definitely has a crush on Buffy, and he's not even trying to hide it at this point. He's just like, well, this is what I am. But like, whenever I saw that, I just had this like cringe-worthy reaction. I was like, oh my fucking god. And just being found out by the boyfriend, it was just like, what the fuck are you doing smelling her clothes? And Spike was like, oh yeah, I'm smelling her clothes. You know, it's like a predator thing. You know, I have to know her scent. It's like, oh, I feel it. I feel that musky Slayer or whatever. And he was like, all right, you're getting out. And then on the way out, he grabbed, I think it was underwear because it was small. But he did say something interesting. Well, first of all, he also tried to fight Riley on, like, you know, like, face it, you're not a bad boy like me. She doesn't have a thing for you. She has a thing for us, you know? Just he was essentially asserting himself of like, you know, like I am the cooler love interest. You don't have a shot, big guy. It's like, oh my god, fucking Spike. But what he did say that was interesting is that apparently, unless I misunderstood, or unless Spike was lying, because it's Spike after all, it appears that after last episode, they just hung out. He stayed, he kept their company somehow, and I have to assume that like Buffy just let him in her house because it was getting to daytime, and she was like, well, you can stay, I guess, while we go do the hospital thing. So just chill out here, I guess. Though when Riley approached, the door was open, so maybe they left in the middle of the night and Spike just sneaked in the middle of the night. I don't know, maybe that's what happened. And he just smelled her clothes for like a couple hours. That could also happen. I wouldn't put it past it. But I am thinking of the idea of they hung out for a while. They talk about things. She did talk to him about what happened, apparently, because he knew. So he knew what went on. Buffy opened up a little bit. He did say that they like drank something together, you know, so like invited him for like a cup of coffee or something while they just chilled. And she was kind of opening up to him, and he just hung out. So that is a scene we didn't get to see, and I kind of wish we would have. Part of me is like, did I miss an episode? But I would have seen it in the recap. The recap was fucking girthy, and no, I didn't think I missed an episode. Yeah, it seems like there was a scene that night where they just hung out for a while, and they talked. Or she talked, he listened. And that really inflated his ego, because today he was like, "You're cooked, man. Like I'm gonna take your girl." It's like, oh my god. I will say that I know for sure, now that I've seen like last episode, I know for sure why people love Spike. Why so many people are just such diehard Spike fans. They love this pathetic baby girl guy. But I have to say that I also understand why some people actively don't. I know some people in like my comment section, and I'm not reading comments anymore. I'm actually thinking about making like a mid-season kind of like Q&A where I'm just like, I'm not reading comments, but if there's something you want me to know like halfway into the season about some of the previous episodes and you want my response to it, maybe I'll just make a video out of it. Fuck it. Like a half season like mini podcast review. So maybe I'll do that. But before we actually do the Buffycast at the end of the season, just like a mid-season catch up with like the comment section. But I would just ask people on YouTube like, hey, something you want me to know halfway into the season or whatever. But yeah, like I'm not reading comments anymore, but I have read comments before, like as far back as like season 2, where I remember people being like, yeah, I love Spike. Hell yeah, that's my boy. Hell yeah, I jack off to Spike every night. TMI, but I get it. And I also remember people being like, I really like Drusilla. Not Spike though. Fuck him. And I'm like, okay. So we have a wide array of like feelings that people have for this fucking character. I feel like I can see both angles of the argument at this point. Because Spike, he is this pathetic baby girl who is just a hopeless romantic, who is also a bad boy, who is also really pathetic, who is also really inoffensive, but he's also a piece of shit. So it's like, and I think that like that combination can be incredibly attractive to some people, but that exact same combination can be incredibly off-putting to other people. Because like seeing this guy just inside Buffy's bedroom smelling her clothes, it's like, what the fuck are you doing, you fucking creep? Get the fuck out of here. And it's like, I can see how one part of the fan base can look at this guy and be like, but you don't understand. You don't understand how much he cares. You don't understand how much his heart breaks whenever, you know, like he has this longing that he's always felt ever since he, like for like 150 years, and he wasn't able to fulfill it. And then you have the other end of the argument, which is like, fuck no, that's creepy. Get the fuck out. Like, that's how I feel about Spike. It's like, you have both. I can see perfectly how both ends of the spectrum feel regarding this character. Spike is funny in that regard. Spike has been funny for a long time, but now I'm like starting to tap into the mind conscience of the fan base. I can see a little bit further than I used to do before, and it's still funny. It's arguably funnier than it was before. They had an argument with Riley, and Riley kicked him out, but he was nice enough to give him the cloak so Spike wouldn't like burn. He arrived with the cloak, so he came during daytime. So probably what happened was, they hung out at nighttime when he came to kill her, and then he started crying, and then he consoled her a little bit, and then Buffy confided in him a little bit and told him about what was going on with her mom. Spike was like, oh, that sucks, I'm sorry, and they hung up a little bit. And then he left. And then because Buffy had told them, yeah, we're going to take her to the hospital in the morning, he was like, well, she's not going to be home, so I can sneak into her bedroom. So he just came during the day with a cloak, broke into her house, and just started smelling her clothes. And then Riley arrived. That's probably the sequence of events, because the cloak on the floor actually spells that. So yeah, I see. Yeah, again, fucking creepy. But you don't get it. You don't get the misunderstood love that he's always... Oh my fucking... Okay, it's... I get it. I see both ends. I understand how this character hasn't left people's fucking brains ever since. Anyway, I think I'm done. I already talked about how depressed the Joyce situation is, and it's gonna keep being depressing. Because Joyce is still alive, which is... Maybe... It would be more strikingly sad if she just died in this episode, but I think it's more depressing that she didn't, because it means the next episode I'm gonna feel like shit, and next episode I'm gonna feel like shit, and next episode I'm gonna feel like shit, and that's just gonna keep going. That's where we're at right now. I guess the final thing I want to say is that that snake demon we summoned, like, that kind of takes away from the episode a little bit. And like, this is kind of how I feel like every time they decide to summon a big creature monster, because they don't have the budget for it. And this is how I feel every fucking time. It looks like trash. So like, it had like a one or two shots where it was like fully animated, and it was like, oh man, like, it looks kind of cool. It looks very jank, but I don't know, they had some budget. But then they had a lot of scenes where it was like clearly like a rubber thing that they made, and it just moved like this, and it was like and it was literally just some rubber thing that they just moved like this in front of the camera, just like just running. And yeah, it didn't look great. And I do love some practical effects because they look jank, but in an episode where this is a very serious and kind of depressing episode, that snake demon felt a little bit out of place. Like, if he had been some kind of humanoid, that it was just a dude in a costume, but like, let's say that it doesn't have any intelligence, that it's just like a thing designed for a task, kind of like I don't know, like a robot that follows instructions, but it was humanoid, it would have been better, because it would have at least moved well. But instead it was just like a rubber statue that was just like so it felt weird. Yeah, anyway, and then Buffy just beat the fuck out of him, and I do like that she kept punching it. And it was this thing of like, she needs to feel like she's accomplishing something, because she cannot accomplish what she actually wants to accomplish, which is healing her mom. So she's kind of coping by just feeling some level of accomplishment in some kind of area, while she doesn't have that in the actual area she wants. So yeah, okay. I think that's it for this episode. I don't know what else I can say. Maybe I forgot something. I'll talk about it later, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, that's it for this episode reaction to Buffy. See you guys next time. Bye. But if you'd like to watch the next 2 episode reactions of Buffy, you can do so already over at the Patreon. You can also watch some Angel watch-alongs, just full reactions to the entirety of Angel. I'm also doing that. Full reactions to Buffy as well, also some cool stuff. But yeah, check out the Patreon, link in the description below, pop up on the screen. See you guys next time. Bye, take care.